Facebook. All right. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing here. Let's get out of this and go into something else here, and then I'll be able to see us. Hopefully we should be live now. I think we're live right now. Let's see. Things moving a little slow on my end. I don't know why. All right. Yep. We're officially live. All right. Cool. Welcome everyone to Drum Talk, episode 6 with Skip Hadden. Mi hermano de otra madre.
Ah, all right.
Yeah. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Everything is good. It's a sunny day here. That's why there's a reflection in the video of my office here. I rarely open that, but it's kind of like the dungeon kind of thing, I suppose. Control the light, but I think it's okay. But yeah, how are you doing?
Much better, thanks. It's really with this post-COVID stuff was really very challenging for me. And, I'm not one to complain because I work with people who have, in my business, way worse problems than I have ever had. So I consider myself lucky, but still, my memory is somewhat challenged right now, but it's definitely coming around. I've been eating very well, very good, healthy, clean food, if you want to call it, and resting a lot. That helps. So the fatigue is down. The headaches are gone. Brain fog is diminishing. For the most part, I feel, especially today, pretty like almost normal, maybe. That's cool.
Great.
Yesterday was good too.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of conversations in the past week. I'm going to start doing less of those just during this post-COVID stuff. For me, one thing I've been able to do is talk about music and movement. So I had quite a few drummers and musicians on, and I want to continue our thing we're doing, Skip, but diminish my interviews to less every week, quite a lot less. And but it's something I was able to do. It's interesting how the memory works with. I find this in my business that a lot of times people with cognitive decline or mild cognitive decline or early stage dementia or Alzheimer's or cognitive decline also accompanies Parkinson's very often, that their long-term memory is usually real good. It's the short term that's affected more. So I have a tiny look, a glimpse into what that feels like, just tiny, because compared to other people, my memory hasn't been that bad yet. I've been forgetting a lot of things.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're talking about Yarwood? Is that the name of it?
Yarwood, yeah.
Yarwood.
Yeah,
I gotta check that out.
I can do it on the other screen, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to. Memory and brain preservation and health is something I've been teaching for a long time, and I practice because our brain needs oxygen and blood just as much as the rest of our body, and especially because it controls our body. So, exercise is great because it gets blood and oxygen going to the brain, even if it's just walking. That's good. But thinking, my two-word phrases that I think I'm going to change my email signature to are keep moving and keep thinking. You have to use it.
Good idea. It's like keep moving, yes.
You said
at least be a moving target.
Yeah. You said the yarrow wood helps with memory?
Yeah. My wife found this thing and
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to spend the time going through this, but
I don't mind. I think it's great. I'll be monitoring the feed here, so if we have anyone joining or with questions, I'll make sure we get them out there. Hey, I was talking with Dave Frangioni on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, I don't have an address for him. We've been working, but it's together, Sergio and I and Dom.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't have his email address. I was going to tell him how good that came across, but I didn't know all this background stuff about him.
Yeah, me neither. But I'll send you his email address.
Okay.
Yeah. So congrats to you, man, because you're on the. I forget the actual name of the board, but it has to do with education,
Education
right?
Advisory Board.
For Modern Drummer magazine,
Yeah.
which is that's great. I'm really, really glad he has you and Sergio on there. You said Dom? Is Dom also on it?
Yeah, he's the kingpin of that.
Okay. Yeah, he's something, man. I love that guy. He's fun. Well, that's cool. So it's interesting with Dave taking over, or David. I'm not sure if he goes by Dave ever, but David Frangioni taking over Modern Drummer as publisher and then CEO, acquiring it. Uh, really seems like because of all the other stuff he's done in the past, he has this great ability to build things out. With the webcast, the
Well,
podcast.
he's been successful with that audio video stuff and the production stuff that he did for years with big name acts. So
Yeah, he was saying he was working with Chick's Electric Band back in the day, doing a lot there.
yeah,
That's kind of cool.
yeah, and I would imagine that he did also stuff then with Bernie Kirsch because he was the recording engineer stuff for almost everything that Chick Corea did.
Yeah, going way back. His
Yeah,
name's on just about every album. Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
he'd be another guy to talk to, boy. Pick
I'd
his
love
brain.
to. Yeah, I've thought about that as a matter of fact. So it's funny we were talking off camera first. Your name comes up often lately in these conversations, and then Vinny and a lot of people. And you were saying that you have a recording that you found of Vinny with Patitucci and
Bill
what's that guy?
Cunliffe.
Yes. It's a story that I heard from Steve Hunt, who also teaches at Berkeley. Worked a lot with Alan Holdsworth, especially back in the late 80s and through the 90s, about how I think it was Chad Wackerman had to leave 2 weeks early on a Holdsworth tour to go back out with Zappa. And Gary Husband, I guess, wasn't available. So Jimmy Johnson, the bass player, says, I'll get Vinny. He'll want to do it. Flies back to LA, gets Vinny. He's got all this charts because Jimmy apparently is very organized. They're on the plane going back to DC or something like that for a show, or Atlanta or somewhere east. And Jimmy gets out all of the stuff and he's ready to show it. And he looks over and Vinny's in the seat, head against the window, snoring. He's out. So their only rehearsal with that group was sound check. And what it brings me around, really, the point being that Vinny has that natural ability, this amazing intuition and ability to just nail stuff like immediately. These first takes that he's famous for, first take, second take. And to go on a Holdsworth gig with some of that really complex music, of which Alan didn't read, and the charts he wrote were different notations than your regular notation for guitar. I mean, I have a bunch of bootleg recordings of those 2 weeks that Vinny toured with him, and holy cow, man, it's unbelievable. What a talent that guy is.
Yeah, yeah, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
And part of the thing too for him is he's done so much listening. I have a story, of course, it's about me, but
Tell us.
he was a student at Berkeley when I used to go up in the mid 70s, 73 or so. He and Steve Smith were at a clinic I did there. I used to go up every spring. Joe Hunt was teaching there and was trying to get me there. And eventually I went there in 82. But in 73, I'd come up. My parents lived up here in Massachusetts. I would travel up and do private lessons that Joe would set up in clinics at school. And those guys were there, but I didn't know who they were. There were students in a crowd, like then it would have been room A or room D or something like that. And time goes on, and then I have a student when I'm teaching there early on, maybe 83, 84, and it's Joe Mardin, Arif Mardin's son.
Okay.
And so he invites me, he graduates, and he invites me to come to his birthday party. He's 21 or something. And Vinny was going to be playing with Shaka Khan at the big, where the Rockettes dancers used to be.
Oh, Radio City?
Radio City. So
Okay.
she's going to be there and Vinny's going to be playing. So I'm going, okay. So I go down there. A student of mine, another current student then, we go down there and we go to Joe Mardin's apartment. And you walk in and it's the whole hallway. They have a 6th floor of this apartment building on Central Park West, which befits Arif Mardin's scene. And it's all lined with gold and platinum records. You know, going in, it's like a museum, you know, but not a museum.
Yeah.
And we go in and it's a party and Shaka Khan and all the people in the band and Arif Mardin and Joe are there. And who's there but Vinny's there with his wife at the time. So Joe Mardin introduces me to his dad, who I did not know. And then he said, oh, and I want you to meet this guy. And he takes me over to Vinny. And Vinny jumps up and goes, Skip Hadden, and shakes my hand. And Joe Mardin goes, you know him? You know, like the connection between teacher and somebody else knowing me is remote. And so Vinny runs this thing down of all the recordings and places and things that I've done.
Oh,
seriously. Wow. I'm like speechless. Yeah. Because it's like, why would he know this?
Yeah.
And,
Isn't that cool?
But he did. And so he's like that, not about me, but like everybody. I mean, if you later on, he was at Berkeley. He came and did a clinic at the Performance Center. And he came in and he was jet lagged. He was tired. He flew in from London or something. And he was telling the students, you know, about how bad he felt that morning. And it was because it was early. Yeah. And so the students of Berkeley, you know, they're liable to say anything. And they did. They said, okay, great, fine, now play. I mean, they were yelling for him to play. They didn't want to hear anything about what bad shape he was in. Or So we got to hang out about that time, too. And I pointed at some stuff that I was into spiritually that he was asking about and that kind of thing. So over the years, we've touched base periodically with this. And then this century, I was at Cape Breton, Cape Breton in Canada International Drum Fest. And Sergio's there with me. We did a bunch of stuff around the world together, doing these clinics, PAS in Italy and Cape Breton. And so for some reason, we get, there was this Vinny Renza, this really great drummer from Toronto, knows Vinny too. So Vinny and Sergio's side, they're going to talk to Vinny. So we're in Canada and they get Vinny on the phone. And so we're passing the phone around, right? And he was like the same thing. He was like into what everybody was doing. He knew what Vinny Renza was in.
Wow.
He knew, of course, he knew Sergio because Sergio used to run his website.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's when I first heard of Sergio was when I reached out to try to touch base with Vinny about dates because his calendar was empty and I knew he couldn't be empty for real. And then Sergio responded. This is probably 10 years ago. So that's the first interaction I have with Sergio. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's like a small world. The connections are not always like even remotely what you would think.
I know. You know, it seems that some people are so far away from you reachability-wise, yet they're one person away, or maybe two, but a lot of times it's one, especially in this network of musicians and especially drummers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not only just because of everybody locked down or the internet stuff. I mean, I remember long ago, maybe 64, to give you an idea about how long ago, almost 60 years ago, something like that. I played in Jimmy Dorsey big band.
Okay.
Like for 1 week before they threw my ass out. Okay. And I made friends with the guys in the band. And one of them was Rick Stepton, this really great trombone player.
I've heard of him.
And he was after that, he was in a rock band that was successful called Lighthouse, guys from Canada, I think.
Okay.
And we were communicating by snail mail. And as remote as that may seem, and as distant as that may seem, communication with somebody outside the realm of where I was living made the world much more possible to be in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know how that. Yeah, I know how that feels or how it felt.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's strange. The same kind of thing happened with Alan Schwartzberg.
Oh,
That
yeah.
Jingle King kind of guy we brought his name up before.
Yeah.
And, but he was the same kind of thing. There was no reason that I could discern that he would be reciprocating or reaching back to me when I would get in touch with him. Again, same thing. This is before the internet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was through him that I found out about Alphonse Mouzon.
Okay.
You know, and then that piece fits together with how I got together with be able to hang out with him and watch him play and get close to him and him be an inspiration to me.
Slim, right?
And then Alphonso Johnson, yeah.
Oh, that's what that's who I got the two mixed up. Alphonse Mouzon, yes.
And
actually,
they're spelled differently, yeah.
I may have said this previously when I was doing interviews at the radio station up here at the university, which is used to be jazz only all the time, other than NPR. Alphonse Mouzon is one of the gentlemen I interviewed, and we had a blast.
Yeah,
he was so dynamic, even over the phone.
Right.
His voice, you could hear the energy and the passion behind what he was doing, whether it was acting, playing trumpet, playing drums. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he brought that energy that he was to everything.
Yeah. So this is I have a note here from Gary Kennedy. Do you know Gary? Yeah.
Yes. I don't know him face to face. I just know him from from Nova Scotia.
Okay, well, I'm going to read a note that he read. He said, "Hi, Karl. I can't make the live show due to work meetings. However, Maestro Skip once told me that the song Fool in the Rain was not only a great shuffle, but John Bonham intermittently played an African-rooted groove on the bell of the ride cymbal known as bembe. And cheers to you." So interesting. Yeah. Actually, I don't think I'm familiar with this Fool in the Rain.
Yeah, it's a great shuffle that he did with.
I'll have to check that out.
With Led Zeppelin, and then Jeff Porcaro did that same lick in a solo in a Lee Ritenour album, where he played. What the heck was it? Oh, Stevie Wonder, "Isn't She Lovely?"
Oh,
from 1980, and it's a shuffle. But at the end of the guitar solo with Lee Ritenour, there's a drum fill that leads into the next section of the tune. And Bill Champlin, the guy ended up being the vocalist from Chicago. Mm-hmm. He was like a studio vocalist at that point in LA. And so he's singing "Isn't She Lovely," the Stevie Wonder tune. Then Lee Ritenour plays. And then there's this fill, and it's the same fill that John Bonham used, which is basically two double paradiddles that make up the bembe rhythm, also known as apakwa, a little variation, or nanyigo.
Okay.
N-A-N with the tarde over the N.
Okay.
And that's what I thought that was, only to find out. And that's what's in my book when you do that section.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
But please cross that out and write bembe, because nanyigo is like not a great term for people from that culture. So that's not the way to identify that. But I got like 180 different bembe examples that I use in my teaching stuff. Yeah.
That's cool.
But thanks, Gary. Yeah, he'll be able to pick up on the video of this.
Yeah, I'll send him this later. Do you know Leona Brand? She says hi, guys.
Yeah.
And I've seen her.
Where is Leona?
You know, I'm not. Leona, where are you? If you're still with us, where are you located? I'll try to look her up here real quick, because her name's come up on a few different things. Liverpool. Well, looks like maybe the UK.
Oh, wow.
I believe, because there's Liverpool near me, and I doubt that she's here because nobody's here. except for me. I'm the only one there. She shared everything. Oh, thanks for sharing, Leona. So, yeah, I also heard that just another thing I heard the other day about Vinny, I didn't know. Not that it matters, but it's just interesting that he has. Oh, she's in Scotland.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I love Scotland. Edinburgh. What a beautiful city.
Really?
Oh, just beautiful. Thanks for joining, Leona. Do you play drums? Just curious. So I learned that Vinny has perfect pitch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who else has perfect? Oh, Jeff Watts. I was talking with Jeff Watts yesterday. Man, what a sweet guy. I had I'd never spoken with him before. I'd just seen him and admired him forever. And gosh, what a great conversation. Just another instance of documenting history. And it looks like we might have somebody in the chat here. Oh, no, that's you sending to me. Okay, cool. So yeah, perfect pitch. Also, Jeff Watts. And he was at Berkeley. He was telling me he was at Berkeley, remembers you, and he was there about the time that maybe Vinny was there and Steve Vai. And
Vinny was only there for like 73. And Jeff left in the spring of 82. And I started in September. So he had
I might be
studied,
misspoken. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had studied with somebody else before that. And somebody else that had a yellow drum set that didn't get along with Jeff. So then when I was there, people go, "Oh, you're the guy that gave Jeff Watts a hard time because I had a yellow set." But that wasn't the case.
Okay. He does remember you from, you guys must have crossed paths at some point.
Yeah. He did a great performance for a benefit for John
Blackwell?
Yes.
Blackwell? Yeah.
Yes, because his daughter passed away. She fell in the pool and drowned at their house.
Oh God. I heard about the benefit too. I wanted to come out. I just couldn't manage it. But what a tragic thing. And he passed away too, I heard.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. And I knew him when he was a student and through his dad, because my wife's from Atlanta. So when we went to Atlanta, we met with John and his dad, there. So I knew him for a lot of the time that he was at school. And he was in some labs, but that's when I was doing only labs, not private lessons. But he was a sweet guy.
He seemed like it. I actually met him briefly at the Regatta Bar. Dennis Chambers was playing there one night with Mike Stern. I've seen Dennis and Mike Stern and a bunch of combinations of Mike Stern bands over the years at the Regatta Bar. So is there this is probably around 2004 or 5. It's definitely before that benefit. And at the very last tune of the set, I don't know which set, they did 2. Dennis John was standing off to the side, and Dennis just holds up the sticks and says, "Come on." So Mike's playing this thing. He didn't even know that Dennis had switched places, and Dennis was off now on the side, and John Blackwell was playing. And about halfway through the song, Mike turns around, looks, he's like, "Hey, John, what's up?" So it was really cool. It was the only time I saw him ever, and I saw him play one song, and it was really fun. And we met afterwards in the lobby. He just seemed like a really nice guy.
So at the last time that I spent any time with Dennis was that night of that benefit. And so we were in the dressing room, and it was neat because because I'm there at school, I can like roam around and go like anywhere.
Yeah, sure.
So when Dennis is playing on the stage, I'm behind the curtain, and it's just the very thin backdrop that blocks your vision of anything behind it. But I can see through that hanging cloth or whatever it's made out of. And I'm like 18 inches behind Dennis watching him play.
Oh God. Wow.
In that thing. Now he doesn't know I'm there. I'm not like jumping up and down or anything. And it was like being next to a great fire in your fireplace. I mean, he was like just throwing off heat and energy to like you couldn't believe. So I was like, just whoa,
Yeah. I can only imagine that proximity to him and the energy you must feel from it.
Yeah, it's what's the word? It's tactile. I mean, you can feel. I was feeling it almost as like heat, but I was just feeling as the energy that he generates. And then what everybody feels out front is that same thing projected, even though it might be, for in that case, I think it was like 800 people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or onto recordings too as well.
Sure. That's one of the reasons that as a student, I'll fight for a front row seat in any class or workshop. I need to be up front because I learn the most that way. I feel I actually feel things different. I don't just learn them differently, but I feel it. And whether it's a movement workshop or a brain workshop or a drum thing or whatever, a music thing, I need to be in front. And I also like to be front row or front table at the Regatta bar. I remember being next to McCoy Tyner one night. Literally, I could reach out. I didn't even have to put my arm all the way out. I could have played the last couple upper octaves of the piano. And it was him with Eric Harland and I forget the bass player. Might have been Sharnette Moffat, but then Michael Brecker. And it was really cool because the energy I felt from McCoy, because he's not even like 2 feet from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The
well,
coolest thing ever, I could hear his growl, and the power and the intensity and the actually heat, because there was heat.
Right.
He's generating sweat and heat. That's great.
McCoy is really rough on pianos. That club that I worked at all those years, my college education was at that club, the Smiling Dog. McCoy was there, and he broke the piano up. They had to buy another piano. So my wife and I at the time, we bought that piano. And had it redone. And then Kenny Werner came to town and used that piano. We moved it to Jamie's father's club, King's Pub, which was on the east side. Mm-hmm. And we had that piano in the house, and we had a loft bed at the time. And so the bed was above the piano, and my drums were underneath the piano. So it was like stacked 3 high. And so we had that piano for a long time. And I think then maybe John Dollinger, an old friend of mine, I think I mentioned him before. He was the great listener that was into international banking.
Yes.
He bought McCoy's piano from from us. So, it's like those connections are like, wait a second, what does that have to do with anything? Nothing other than what it meant to me or the people involved. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really, I understand that too. Well, it's interesting what some people have acquired over the years. For example, Dennis took us on a tour on this interview last Thursday. That's right. I haven't spoken with you since I talked with him.
He has one of Elvin's sets. He has like a bunch of, he's like,
yeah,
he doesn't consider himself a collector, but I'm sorry, he's a collector.
Well, it's funny because I started to say goodbye about a little less than an hour into the thing. I didn't want to keep him too long. Figured he's got to be busy. And, he was like into it and talking, and we were having a good time, and people are interacting on, online and asking questions and commenting. And I'm like, well, thank you for he's like, oh, wait a minute. I got to show you something. He gets up, take you down in the dungeon, the drum dungeon. So he brings his iPad down, and we're down there, and he shows us, I can send you the video. Towards the end, if you scroll through and do that swiping over, you'll see the image of where he goes downstairs, and then there's this wall of snare drums. Got Tony, Gene Krupa, Buddy. I forget if it was Baby Dodds, but maybe he's got an old set of Papa Joe's. He got to know Papa Joe. Did you ever know Papa Joe? Did we talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. That's right. You told me about that in Cleveland, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he has these drum sets. Art Blakey, Papa Joe, Tony Williams, Elvin.
Right.
He's got other ones too. And he has a collection of basses and guitars too.
Whoa.
Like Gary Granger's bass. I forget who else, but guitar players like Alan Holdsworth and others. So it's fun. Oh, Schofield, he's got one of Schofield's guitars. So, the meaning though, there's meaning to that for him. And I'm kind of the same way. Although I don't have anything from anyone, but I do have an accordion I love, and it came from Ohio. It was owned by an Amish family in Ohio.
I was just going to say it must have been an Amish family. Yeah.
Yep, it was in the center when my son and I rode our bicycles in 2005 from Syracuse, New York to Dallas for a fundraiser we generated, and we had a lot of hotel chains supporting us, giving us rooms at night, and Subway gave us free subs all the way. And at the time, it was great. We needed the calories, but now I don't. But anyways, grateful for the support. We went through a day and a half of Amish country, and I met a gentleman. Um,
That would have been down near Berlin, stuff like that.
Absolutely, yes, exactly. And about a year after the ride, we were communicating. He's like, you're into music. I got this old, you know, it's actually a concertina. It's not a, it's a small thing, a single row push button.
Mm-hmm.
I had to download the fingering chart, and I'm still working on that one because it's kind of hard with the four stops.
They're difficult to play.
Yeah.
There's
Especially
one from Brazil too that plays differently from in and out. Mm-hmm. The buttons and everything work different whether you're pushing in or pulling out. I forget what the name of that's called.
Well, it sure is interesting, and it was made in the 30s by Hohner in Germany, and it just sounds beautiful.
Wow.
It's a beautiful instrument. So that's the only thing I have in my collection that has meaning other than my father's drums and some other things of my dad's. When's your new book coming out?
You mean Sergio's? He's the one that's working on the book.
Well, he's got Ghost Nuts, but aren't you working on a book about right, left, right, left, right?
Oh, yeah,
left?
but it's not a book.
It's not a book.
No, it's something I share because it's something I got into, and I use part of it as reference in a bunch of different classes because it's one of those ancient rhythms through history, and all cultures use that's right, left, left sticking. So I've gathered all this stuff, and none of it's mine really, other than the research I did into where this exists in music or in videos. I got one this morning from Henry Collet, and he's doing the right, left, right, but he's doing it layered, like kind of a Garibaldi kind of thing. But he's playing it with the left foot on the hi-hat and between both hands and around the drum set, but it's a groove. It's not just an exercise. It's just burning. I'm hoping that he'll put that up so you can see it on Facebook.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But yeah. And he put this thing to it so he's different colors distorted, so it's kind of like a hip little thing. And then later on he switches to where you can actually see him. But I just got that this morning.
That's cool. Well, let's listen to some Gad stuff. Some funky Gad stuff the other day.
And that sticking is one of the ones he uses like all the time.
A lot. And it makes total sense. I mean, it's before you told me about this. When I had tried to copy some of that stuff, that's the way I would do it. I just didn't think of it as anything special. It just worked out well, coordination wise and movement wise, and not having to switch, economy wise, and just being hip. But since talking with you and realizing that it's something that many cultures or all cultures have used, I can see that there's a lot of versatility just within that sticking itself.
Yeah, it's in ancient African stuff. It's in Brazilian stuff. Wawanko is that. It doesn't start on the beat, but it's the same sticking. And then that variations page that's in there, there's like 16 different ways that I put up on that packet about how to play that sticking. Mm-hmm. But there's actually 40,620 different combinations of how you can use that. So it's like, no. And for me, it's like that's 16. Wow. And then I've got a list of videos and audio and pages from different people's publications that use that sticking. That would be Dave Garibaldi, Stanton Moore, John Riley. There's that history book where it has Buddy Gilmore from 1914 and a transcription, and that sticking is in there in the drum solo from 1914 for early jazz. But it goes back to like antiquity. I'm looking now to see if it's in the drumming of Thailand and Laos. I mean, it's like it's everywhere. But it all comes from like hand drum stuff. Not this is all before drum set.
Yeah, the drum set's pretty new, really,
Yeah,
right?
it's late 1800s,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but not
So,
until into the 1900s that somebody started building stuff that you could buy. It was all people putting stuff together on their own.
so who was considered the first, let's say, jazz drummer?
Well, but Baby Dodds gets tagged with that. He
Okay.
was like the first Elvin Jones, but he didn't like bass drum pedals. He didn't like hi hats. His playing, but it was just that feel and what he could generate, and he just did it with his hands. And so that was coming from like second line marching stuff,
Mm-hmm.
from brass bands to ragtime, and then
Interesting.
into like drum set and actually beginning jazz, like mid to late teens, like 1914, 1917.
Yeah, I was looking up a lot of these like Sid Catlett, Papa Joe, who lived into what the early '80s, I think, or mid '80s.
And we're playing like so Singleton was able to make that transition into early bebop as well.
Okay. Yeah. So Baby Dodds, when did, like, what was his era? He must have been born in late 1800s or something, right?
Yeah, I
Maybe.
don't remember the dates, but I mean he was playing in the beginning of the 1900s.
Okay. And then,
And then up until like the 40s, I think he did a video where he's playing a drum solo on a floor tom with his foot, and he's playing, changing the pitch and stuff. And
I got to check that out.
mm,
It's funny. When I was a kid, I went to see Louis Belson at a clinic, and I was probably 10 or 11. It's right around 1971 or two. My dad took me, and that's the time we got there really early. And Louis drove in in a station wagon that he was driving. I don't know if he had to rent a car or what, with his drum set. And we helped him load things in, set them up. We were talking for well over an hour before anybody else showed up. So it was really cool. But he had a floor tom that has some kind of a pedal on it that he
pitch
could
change,
change
yeah.
the pitch up and down, and that's the only time I've ever seen it.
Roy
I
had
mean,
one of
I
those too.
he did.
Mm.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are people who've played them, and I didn't just wasn't paying attention. I haven't ever looked it up, but he was setting that up, and we were looking. I said, "What's this?" So, oh yeah, well, listen to this, and it was cool.
Yeah,
He was quite an innovator. So,
yeah.
who gets credit for bringing the stick from the hi hat to the ride cymbal? Who's the first person in jazz, drummer in jazz, who
There was a guy
who
from
might have done that?
Chicago. I think his name was Redman or something like. He was one of the first guys. You're
Okay.
catching me in a not a COVID moment, but a moment of not being able to
That's
remember
okay.
the guy's name. But I think he was one of the early guys that was on a recording where he moved that kind of thing from the snare drum, that buzz da buzz da buzz da, into the ride cymbal.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
it I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there are historians that can really parse that out. But for me, it was um, Gene Krupa changing the stuff over and moving it, and Dave Tuff as well from Chicago, from
Yes.
listening to Baby Dodds and those guys that came up from New Orleans. Remember, because the work dried up for them in New Orleans, so they went to playing gigs on the boats, the
Okay.
river boats. And although Chicago was not on the Mississippi River, it went to Decatur, and then those guys would go to Chicago from there.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
so that's beginning of the drums starting to be out front, be much more demonstrative, and like the thing that Gene Krupa did with all the motion and the excitement that he would generate with his body. Most guys weren't like doing that so much until a little bit later on. Sonny Greer around that same time.
Yeah,
twirling sticks and all that kind of stuff.
Gene did a lot of motion with his body, and he was. I mean, I feel a little bit bad because I haven't really dug in deep on Gene. He was my dad's number one hero, though. First and foremost, was Gene, and I know he did a lot of triplet type of things, and he'd offset the accents of the triplets, and
Mm-hmm.
he was just a master at that. Fun to watch. Did you ever know Gene or meet him?
Yes, but I don't have any connection story to relate to that. I only have connection to him mostly through my teacher, who was tight with him, and some of
Okay.
his drums and cymbals were in my teacher's house,
Oh,
Bob
wow.
McKee in Cleveland.
Oh, I've certainly heard Bob McKee's name a lot.
And then Gene played at the same place that Bob was in the house band.
Okay.
So that's how we got to know him, because they would
And
work up. He was there often at that club.
it's
And
funny,
I'm trying to remember the name of it now.
when I lived in Chicago, well, Evanston, 82 to 84, my dad came out to visit a couple times. And one of the times we went through the Slingerland plant.
Mm-hmm.
We got a tour. My dad arranged it. He was good. He was good like that, real good with people. He could make stuff happen. And maybe that's where I get it from. I take after him in that people sense of, because I really like people and I like to learn. And he did too. We went through, and I feel bad. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I remember him talking a lot about Buddy Rich, Peter Erskine, who had an endorsement
Right.
that had actually,
In
he
the
had switched.
70s.
Yeah, he switched to Yamaha by that time, because we went through in probably 83 or so.
Mm.
But then he talked about Gene Krupa. And then he talks about the movie with Sal Mineo.
Right.
And really funny stories about actually dealings with a lot of the people.
Right.
That was the fun stuff. And who was a pain in the butt and who wasn't. Or how they were a pain in the butt one day and not the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That was fun. I mean, that plant's been gone, I guess, a long time. I don't know if that company exists anymore, Slingerland.
It might have been a mark that somebody bought up. I don't know. They might be made in China or something. If somebody knows, they can, tell us about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a little set of late 60s Slingerlands. Probably should have kept them, but I didn't.
That's what I would buy because I couldn't wait. Whenever I had the money and I wanted drums, I bought Slingerlands because I could get them in like 3 days. Whereas if I was trying to buy Gretsch, it would be months and months and months.
Yeah.
So I had a set in the late 60s also, natural wood, kind of a dark, they were probably maple stain. Yeah. And then when I left that gig, I sold those to the next guy that took that gig over. And then that's when I went to Florida and played with Ira Sullivan.
Oh, cool.
That was the end of me playing shows. I'd had it.
Okay.
It was like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a medium tone natural wood set, probably maple, I guess. I don't know. I know the guy who bought them from me. They're actually, my old Slingerland set resides at Eastman School of Music now. So
Oh, wow. Yeah. So people are still playing it.
they're put to good use. Yeah. Mike Melito's the drummer who bought them from me. He's a
Oh, yeah. He was on your show
yeah,
week or two ago.
What a great musician. Mike is the real deal, man.
The drum set that's on the Mysterious Traveler recording is a set of Slingerlands.
Oh, really?
And those are blonde. That's an 18 with a 12 and a 14, and the snare drum is something different. And all the cymbals were Pisces for that.
Oh, cool.
And that's one of the reasons that there's so much different sound to the other drummer that's playing, because there's 2 drummers on those cuts that I'm on.
Okay.
And so it was a much bigger kind of rock kind of set, lower pitch and everything, and this was much smaller and higher pitched.
So, yeah, so this is the set that I had, this little Slingerland set, and that's a 20 bass drum, and I did a 20 because, well, that's what came with it, and I bought it for like $450. The drums, it was great. but it was just big enough for some of the louder gigs I did where I wanted the drum to cut through, be a little punchy. And it was small enough to play in that picture's at a really tiny club. And so I could also go real low volume and make it not punchy, and I could make it resonate more. So that was a fun set to have.
Yeah, but, they were nice drums.
Yeah.
And then I learned how to round out the sound by, I hung out with this drummer that was playing with Big Joe Wilson, the vocalist. And this drummer was from Oklahoma City, I think, and his name was Hugh Walker. Really great time field kind of guy. And we would come to my house even after the gigs. We'd go and hang out, then I'd have to drive him back to his hotel. But what he would do is his way of seasoning the drums was to take all the heads off them and take them out in the front yard and hose them down with a garden hose.
Really interesting.
And I always went, all that would do as it dried out would split the grain on the drums. So what I did was I took lucite, a heavy lucite paint that I had, and it was like some kind of pea green or something that was left from, I don't know what was it. And I redid the inside of those ones on that recording with heavy coats of lucite in, because it sealed the inside of the drum, made them more reflective. But it made it so that they were actually more projective. And for some reason, it warmed up the sound.
Interesting. So that's
and I did that on the bass and the two toms, not on the snare.
Okay, so that's the set you used on Mysterious Traveler?
Right. And now those belong to a drummer friend of mine that lives in New Jersey. He had them refinished. They're black now. But he has that same set all these years later.
Gee, that's cool. That's great. So what's the set that's right there behind you?
Those are the Dialis from Rome.
That's right. Yeah. Whoa. That's cool. What did Bob Golati use?
Ames, and they're made in Saugus.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. The first time I ever saw...
It's a one-man drum company. As this was 6 guys in this company. It was pretty big for a small drum company. But there were drum companies all over Italy. There's one in San Marco, the city-state. It's a country, but it's actually just a city. There was guys there who built drums. Marco Gambriasio up in Brambati Sopra near Bergamo is 30 years now. This year is his anniversary of La Soprano. And those are probably the best drums in the world as far as how they're made. They're all brass fittings, and he makes all that stuff himself. He makes the shells. He has autoclaves, that he can season the shells. And because I was there when he bought those. I was there, spent a week with him one time. I had between clinics that I did in Italy. And
see, that's cool.
He was great. And now it was him and another guy, Massimo. And then Massimo took a regular gig instead of making drums. And now Marco's daughter makes the bass drums. So it's it's definitely a family thing. Yeah, at some point, I can pull out the catalog for these if you want. I mean, it was a company. And that was the same guy that had the drum school that Horacio Hernandez taught at for 3 years when he was trying to get to the United States.
Oh, cool.
Remember, the story was you couldn't go from Cuba to the United States.
Right,
So we went there. It took him 3 years to get the paperwork and stuff to get to here.
Wow.
So that didn't happen until 1989. I think he left Cuba, Havana in 86.
Interesting.
But he played those drums. He's on Ed Simon's, I think, first recording, 1989, 1990. And there's a picture of Horacio playing, and it's a set of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
were
cool.
called Queme then, Queme. And then he changed it to Dila, which were the first 2 letters of each of his kids' names.
Oh.
It made up Dila.
That's cool.
Oh,
are you familiar with a gentleman named Ken Lovelet? Ken Lovelet, I was introduced to, although I haven't talked with him, through Pete Levin, Tony Levin's brother. And in Woodstock, New York, or near there, a few miles out, is Ken Lovett, who makes drums also. So I'll
I
send it.
know he has thing on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, I'll send you the link that Pete sent me, because at some point when I get out and drive around a little bit and get out of this county, which I love, I'll come and see you. I'll come see some other people, and I want to stop and see what Ken's making. I'm going to send you this link right now. By the way, welcome to Teresa Muzio. Hey, Teresa.
Hey,
what's up?
hey, Teresa.
She is okay. So I'm sending you through Facebook Messenger this link. Okay, done.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Teresa. What's going on today? How are you doing? We're just talking like organically, the flow of whatever comes up about drums, drummers.
We're talking about one-man drum companies. There's another one. I have 3 or 4 snare drums that I bought from a drummer friend of mine in Cleveland. They're called Fortune drums.
Oh,
and they're really nice. I mean, because he hand makes each one. He buys the shells, from Quarter, is it, that makes the shells? But they're really nicely done, and they're made to your specifications, including what is the bearing edge, what you want for rims, what you want for all the fittings, down to the plates you want to use for what the bass drum's going to attach, the bass drum pedal's going to attach. It's that kind of thing. So if you want to buy a set of drums from him, you can say, okay, make me this size. But for me, we went through where the placement was, how far it was forward on the bass drum, all that stuff you would work out.
Yeah. It's interesting how the drum industry is so, there's so much customization that can occur right from the manufacturing to, there was a guy named Soistman, and I saw an old Soistman. Actually, Peter Erskine told me about it back in the 70s. I was like a teenager. The Soistman snare drum. Well, one of our local stores had an old Soistman snare drum. I can't really describe it to you other than it was completely unique. It had its own sound and its own feel. But Vinny Colaiuta, I was following this guy on Instagram, and I don't really spend a lot of time on there following anybody, even though I post stuff. But Vinny uses a guy in LA, I think, to customize his drums. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's really interesting how it's kind of like a car, right? I can soup up your car for you, make it go faster, and Vinny's guy can zoop up the drums and make them sound a certain way. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's a guy that has a warehouse full of drums. He restores them, works on them, and then also supplies them cartridge for recordings. And I can't remember his name, but you can ask Vinny, because it's somebody that everybody uses. He's like the doctor of taking care of the drums. Oh, the one guy the guy from Fortune Drums in Cleveland is Dale Flanagan.
Okay.
He started making drums in '78, I think, and I have some of those. That snare, remember that story I told you about working with Dewey? I bought that snare drum months before the gig. Dale made me that snare drum.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never spoken with Vinny. I would love to speak with him.
Get the connection through Sergio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been interesting when I reach out to people. It's pretty easy. I mean, one I'll tell you one that's been hard to reach is Virgil Donati, but it's not because he doesn't really want to do anything. The guy's freaking busy as hell, and I figure Vinny's busy as hell too. But finally, I love Virgil, right? He's in his own light and his own thing, just to me absolutely amazing. And his compositions, his piano playing, I mean, he's a real talent. But we've been talking, and what a friendly guy. My gosh, I mean, it's really been fun to talk with him. So at some point he's going to come on as a guest. But Vinny is another one. Well, I'd love to connect. So maybe I'll ask Sergio. I don't want to bother anyone. Most people I just send a message and say, hey, I love your work. Would you maybe consider being a guest? Here's my playlist. You probably know most of the people. It'd be an honor to have you. And if you have a minute, let me know. And most people say yes. I don't have a way to get to Vinny, and I'm not trying to be indirectly beating around the bush. I'm just saying I'd love to talk with him.
Mhm.
So maybe I'll ask Sergio if he has. I know a lot of people who know him very well, but I don't want to.
Well, how did you get to anybody else? How'd you get to Jeff Watts? You know, I mean,
Oh, I tell you what happened is I was talking with Peter Erskine and Jeff Watts. Peter shared it on his page, I guess, and so the live brought in a lot of people because we're both on our Facebook pages. And Jeff made a comment, and I said to Peter, I said, "Hey, Jeff Watts is here," and Peter's like, "Oh, Jeff Watts." I said, "Jeff, I would love to talk with you." He sent me a note, and that was that.
Yeah, great. There you go.
Yeah. Well, I don't want anyone to feel used in getting to someone, because I just don't. I kind of like hesitant about that. You know, another person I want to have on as a guest is Teresa Muzio. I'm going to wait for a response. Teresa, you and I got to talk, because
nothing like, no pressure though, you know.
No pressure, Teresa.
You're being called out.
Let's get you on this show, okay? Because you got a lot to share, and there's so many people would love to hear history stories. You know, people love the stories so much. I love the stories. When we talk, I love your stories. You tell me, it's great. There's some great history. Love it.
Well, great. I'm a little surprised that people want to hear my stories, but it's okay. When you work with, when you talk to Virgil Donati, check in with him. It'll show you've been doing your background stuff about him. His teacher was Graham Morgan. And Graham Morgan was
in Australia.
The jazz drummer for the better part of the history of drums in Australia.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that once. And of course, whenever I talk to somebody, a lot of times I already know a lot about them. But if I don't feel I know enough, I go and listen and listen and listen and read and read and read, and I'll do the homework so I can have a halfway intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I really want it to be a platform for people to feel comfortable and just talk concepts, knowledge, wisdom, stories, whatever. History. It's all fascinating. And, you know, especially during COVID, we're not out of lockdown yet. I mean, we're not locked down, but we're not back to normal. It's going to be a while. So it's been fun for me to do. I'll admit it might be slightly self-indulgent. But if people enjoy it, then hey, I'm cool with that. So you sent me you sent me this link. I'm going to check that out. In fact, I'm going to open it now so it doesn't go away. I'll go back to you here. PS100. Yes. Okay. Jaro formulas. Thanks, man. That's cool. All right. Well, I should probably roll in 2, 3, 4 minutes. I'm going to go meet with somebody at 12:30 and do a little bit of memory training and movement training.
Yeah.
As always, it's really fun, man. So what do you have coming up over the weekend? Anything exciting?
Yes, it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so she'll be up. And
good.
We'll go over that. I think this is, well, I better not say the year. It'll get in trouble if I tell her how many years old she is. Yes, that we'll do.
It's a birthday tomorrow. That's all.
That's close enough.
That's it, man. Yeah.
So that's the familial thing. Now this afternoon is lessons online, so it's in New York and Italy today.
Oh, good. That's cool. Well, I'll be in touch with you. Let's do it again. I think my Wednesdays are cleared up now for a while, and my memory is getting better. And I forgot about the thing this week on Wednesday. So thanks for watching, Therese and Leona, and we got some others up here. I just can't see who. What does she say? Historical and hysterical stories. Yes. The music industry has so many. Happy birthday to Skip's daughter, Therese says. All right, Therese, I'm gonna I'm going to start bugging you, Therese. It's time to talk soon. We'll get to it. It's seriously no pressure. I really mean that, but I would love to have you. It'd be an honor. It'd be a lot of fun too. Skip, my friend, I can't wait to get to Boston and hang out one of these days. Maybe this summer or this fall. We'll see what happens.
Well, hope so. Your room will be ready.
I'll be vaccinated by the end of March. I get my first shot a week from Monday on the 8th. Second one's 29th, probably. And then, boom, there we go. 2 weeks after that, I should be as immune as I can possibly be. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again. It's always great to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, Karl.
Yeah. Have a great day, and I'll be in touch, and we'll go for episode 7.
Oh, all right. And everybody else have a great day too.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Skip.
Sure. See you, Karl.
See you later. Bye-bye.